Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Dynamite Shirt Printing, Kyle Metz. What a guy. He came on as a sponsor, and my primary use for him is drop shipping. So what that means is that I don't got to buy inventory. I don't got to buy a bunch of t-shirts. Kyle handles it all. So it's ordered online, and then he prints it and ships it, and he handles everything. And it works out for both parties. If you're looking for something else like general screen printing, he handles that. He does embroidery. He does direct to garment, DTG, which means you can do one-offs, and there's no minimum on that. Kyle's been able to help a lot of businesses that I've been funneling to him just to get going and to, start up. I mean, you don't want to order 100 t-shirts when you're just coming out the gate. And Kyle can handle small orders, large orders. He can handle everything you need. That's Dynamite Shirt Printing, and it's dynamiteshirtprinting.com. Go check it out. My favorite skate shop in the Valley, 5anddimeeaston.com. You can shop online or in store. Their address is 140 Northampton Street, Easton, PA. Their hours are Monday through Friday, 11 to 7, Saturday, 10 to 7, and Sundays, 11 to 5. They carry clothing, shoes, boards, accessories, and more. You can get complete decks down there. They got grip. They got some local clothing down there as well. I know a couple guys that came on the show that they're now selling stuff in store, and they're exclusive to Fucked. They are doing so much for the independent skate community. They're doing so much for the DIY. They're doing a lot in the area with skateboarding, and I couldn't be prouder to have them as a sponsor. Their story is incredible, from starting it when they were 18 and then coming back later in life to opening up what the store is that they wanted. And the two guys down there are just incredible. I can't say enough good things about them. I love that they're a sponsor, and they really help out in the community. And if you skate or want to support them, please go check them out locally. It is 140 Northampton Street, Easton, PA. Online, it is 5anddimeeaston.com. Please go check them out. All Valley Rooter, Jared LaBarba, friend of the show, childhood friend, Never Again Studios official plumber. 24-hour emergency services. 610-762-1656. That's 610-762-1656. They charge by the job, not by the hour, and they are 100% fully insured. They have free estimates. They also do installation and repair. They have a list of things. I can't go over them all on here, but you can find them at allvalleyrouter.net. All of Jared's services are on there. It's a beautiful website. You can contact him through that website. You can find out how to do, emergency services. Where should I call? Who should I contact? You can get all that there at allvalleyrouter.net. Free estimates, fully insured. Jared LaBarba. Check him out. To kind of hang out in how you guys did this, because I didn't realize you had this many whiskeys. How long have you been doing this?
So 14 months.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So it's not really a business per se. It's like a group.
Cool.
So we're able to privately source and then have our branding on it.
Yeah.
But we don't really make anything off of it.
Yeah.
I mean, when we do events and stuff like that, that's when we could, or swag and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But really, and we'll get into this obviously, it was just the three of us were very into bourbon, and decided, hey, let's do, a store pick, which picking out, tasting, and then we had the opportunity to get these private labels, and expand upon that. But yeah, I mean, we have 8 in 14 months.
Yeah. We'll just roll off of that as the intro.
Sure.
We can't get any better than that.
Yeah.
So here, cheers.
Cheers.
And does everyone have something different, or?
No, we all have the we have the same thing.
So what is it?
So this is our barrel number 5. It is a corn whiskey, 7 years, that we have infused a Brazilian wood into.
Yeah. I like that.
The word
I just started
Amberana. That's hot word in bourbon right now.
I just started getting into whiskeys and drinks. A friend of mine, he goes to Vegas quite a bit for work, and he texted me and he's like, hey, I got into Manhattans. And I'm like, whatever. And then he came back and was like, I'm going to make you how they were. And then I started getting into old fashions from there, because I was like, hey, well, if you're going to make a Manhattan, I'll start figuring out the correct way to do the old fashioned, and then like having the correct cherries, and then I started getting into whiskeys, and then I was like, oh, this is a bad road to go down.
Definitely is a slippery slope.
Sucks you in.
Yeah. How did you guys get together? How did you guys meet? How did this entire collaboration even start?
I think the first thing to mention is where I met Drew first was seeing him walk up to the Cedar Crest, Allentown, PA Wine and Spirits with his Sixers beanie. We used to hit the store like before it even opened to get the hard to find bourbons that everybody wanted. So that's kind of where I met Drew, just standing in line before the store opened, just, shooting the shit. So, and then we started talking about bourbon. And then I met Derek. I put a picture of one of my hauls from Ohio, some Weller bourbon, which is really sought after. And he had saw it and messaged me. And then, we made a trade for some bourbon. And then I ended up going to his restaurant and I met him for the first time there at Roasted. And we just kind of all hit it off ever since. We all have just a strong passion for bourbon and, an imagination. So we clicked from the beginning, and we have golf in common, a lot of things.
Yeah. When you say that, because I just want to dig in on specific topics that is new to me, but when you say sought after bourbons, is that like specific hard to find bourbons that the liquor store is only going to put one on the shelf because not that many people are going to go after, or is it a rare item that they only made a specific amount?
Well, it's definitely limited. They use the term allocated when it in the bourbon industry, which means, in the case of Pennsylvania, we're kind of known that we get probably the most famous bourbon ever, except the name maybe Pappy Van Winkle, is Blanton's. It's got the little pewter horse on the top stopper. But it normally comes to Pennsylvania once a month, so it's highly desired, and we're fortunate enough to have a state that gets it pretty regularly.
Yeah.
So yeah, but and if you're not at the store when it opens within the first, 15 minutes, you won't get any.
So usually, this is interesting to me. So usually when this happens, the only other people in the parking lot that early are people who are sought after finding it. So that's how
idiots
you guys
like
end
us.
up becoming friends.
Idiots
that's
like
pretty
us.
cool.
And I was the number one idiot because I was typically first in line.
With
and
Shannon.
then I drugged my poor girlfriend there because then she could buy a bottle, so then we'd have two of them. But yeah.
So they only let you have one per customer
one to
as well?
two, depending on the store. But yeah, it's not, there's been a few instances where things have slipped through the cracks where you could buy more than one or two, and then if you do, you get the death stares from all the other guys waiting in line, and
they're like, dude, you just fought them all.
They follow you to your house and like, want to cap your ass and all that stuff.
That's a cool way to meet people, because I've done like with like specialty drops or pre-orders, and I like that vibe of like having to get there early and like the whole process of getting it and like hunting down after it. It's probably similar to like sneakerheads and stuff like that.
Yeah,
PlayStations.
But then, camping out the night before.
That's what it is.
When back in the day before it was streaming and a lot of online stuff, we would always go over to GameStop for the game drops, because like they always had, they didn't like, sometimes you weren't able to get the game, but that's how you would meet people, because you'd be in the line every year for Call of Duty or other things. And I haven't done it in a while just because you can just download it, but it's a cool way to meet people. And then you just meet, you think you're crazy till you start running into other people who do it, and then something like this comes out of it.
Yeah, I probably at least 15 different friends that I've made over the last 18 months have all been around bourbon.
Yeah.
So yeah, we stick together.
I mean, you're standing in line for possibly up to an hour.
Yeah.
You kind of start chatting. Yeah. You kind of start chatting. I mean, the first time I saw Derek, I think he was wearing the shorts and it was freezing cold out. And I'm like,
I rock shorts all year.
What are you doing?
I don't. I'm too hot all the time. Where did you guys go from there then? So you developed this relationship of you guys just having a common interest in the hobby. And I mean, you opened with a little bit of the story, but like, where did you guys kind of start getting into like, let's turn this into a little bit something more? Because I know a group, I was telling you how the show started with everything. It's just, there's always kind of like an idea and then you just kind of push it. So it's intriguing. And I love those stories where it's like, let's do something.
Yeah. Well, I think it kind of escalated from the point, and even the name Big Dog is, Drew and I kind of talked a little bit more because we were very active bourbon hunters. So which means you go to stores in Pennsylvania looking, and then heck, just about every weekend, I would hop in the car and drive to all over parts of New Jersey because the ease of getting some of the harder to find stuff is better there. Although in New Jersey, it's not a controlled state like Pennsylvania, so they can kind of set the prices for things. They don't have to sell it at a kind of a retail price, but it's definitely, I did a lot of hardcore hunting, and then that's where, whenever I got a hard to find bottle, or Derek did, or Drew did, we would say, Big Dog, Big Dog bottles.
That's fun.
So it kind of started there, and then we've all communicated a lot more with, hey, this store had this, and what do you think of this? It's a good price here and all that. And so then we started just, our relationship took off from there, and then we brought golf into play, and I probably talk to these two schmucks more than I do my own mom.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so we just kind of hit it off. But it was all about the bourbon hunting.
Yeah.
And then that's where we kind of came up with one of the fundamental, beliefs in this Big Dog group is we want to have like the very high end sought after bottle that most average guys can't get to the one you get on the store in an everyday basis, and put the whole lineup together and actually taste them and just give our humble opinions on, hey, this bottle is worth the driving to New Jersey or the hours on the road hunting for it and the cost, or this isn't. Like, this $30 bottle tastes just as good as something that costs $400.
I didn't even know this was a thing that people did. This is so cool.
There's a lot more people than you think that do it. So, but we probably really started, we went balls to the wall, like hardcore. So
yeah, I mean, early last year we decided, hey, let's like make a podcast or something, like start talking about these super allocated, really hard to get bourbons that are selling for 5 to 10 times what retail is, and that didn't really happen until today, really. So we got an opportunity. We were going to Bourbon Street, weekly, and the manager there like poised us with, hey, like, do you want to do like store picks? So store picks are typically someone, general manager of a store, tastes a bunch of barrels, or they go down to Kentucky, taste a bunch of barrels, or the distillery choose one. So we might sample anywhere from 6 to 15 different barrels at one time. And that's really where the Starlight came in. So the Starlight, local distillery in Indiana, grows all their own corn, 7 generations old, local community, to Indiana. We just loved, and it trended really well, the brand. And we're like, yeah, we like this a lot. Let's do a store pick of it. So I have a large network being in, design and stuff like that. I texted my friend. I'm like, hey, like, we want to do this Big Dog Bourbon thing. Let's make a logo for it. Let's go all out.
Isn't it fun when you can dip back into something?
Yeah.
With doing the podcast and everything, this originally started with a clothing company. Mm-hmm. So like having that apparel, the design, and knowing how to take an idea and make a label on a shirt, but then having that and trying to do something else, it's so much fun to be like, hey, I can just do this and then completely brand it, and like there's zero headaches. I mean, there's headaches, but like that's fun. I can relate on that level where that must have been really cool for you to be like, just, hey, we should make a logo.
Yeah.
And then you can get it done because you're not trying to figure out how to make a logo.
Right. And so we chose a logo, and we're like, okay, like, they have something called tater labels. So the 3 bottles in front of me have tater labels where, they have their branded sticker on the front, and then we, after the fact, put a sticker on the back.
Yeah.
And, I think it was Patrick was like, oh, let's do like an all-end pick. And I'm like, let's maybe think about like dog art and things like that. So we chose dogs playing poker. And the 4 of us, there's another person that was coming every Tuesday, super big part of our group, and the 2 managers there. I got my other friend who does like caricatures, and Drew, dogs playing poker. So these are literally the 6 of us on the label with Big Dog.
I don't know where the gray hair is coming on that one guy. I'm still, these bastards. I'm like, couldn't you touch it up a little bit?
Well, I'm holding the bottle, so.
I'm the old guy of the group.
Well, that's the famous picture that's very common. My mom has
the
poker
dogs playing
dog.
poker.
It's very common.
Kind of
so those were just kind of mocked up, which I think that's one of the best tater labels I've seen. So, I mean,
So, like,
Guy did
explain what a tater label is exactly, because I didn't even know they existed.
Go ahead, Derek. You got this one.
Yeah, I mean,
So, Tater became famous with Blanton's, which we talked about earlier. Blanton's is a round bottle, kind of looks like a potato. It's highly sought after to the point of parody. So it became this thing for like tater labels. Usually there's not like a theme. Just think of something funny, slap it on there. Think of something in pop culture that's very relevant. When Betty White died, like there was a ton of Betty White labels.
Snoop Dogg smoking a joint.
Yeah.
Cigar batch guys like Scarface. It's
there's all kinds of crazy ones. I mean, anything you could think of.
So now when you guys tater label this, just walk me through it because I'm so new to everything you're doing. When you tater label this, is it for sale in the store with your tater label on it? Or so this is really cool. I didn't know that this ever existed.
There's a lot of stores, that do store picks, and then, the store kind of makes their own tater label, puts it on. But there's a lot of, because there's so many people interested in bourbon and want to, large groups. We're a group of like 750 people. So those large groups decide, hey, let's do some store picks. Let's pair with this store.
Do you have to have a relationship with the liquor store in order to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely, there's a lot of moving parts to it. We're basically almost salespeople at that point for, that liquor store. We partner with them. But yeah, on the shelf, you might go to a store and you'll see all these labels on the back, or wax dip, or this one we did a dog tag that has mashed
top.
That's so
bill
much
and
fun.
everything.
Yeah. So then now we could back it up a little bit. So you guys get together and you're kind of forming this collective of like the three of you or whoever else, and you're getting these sought after bottles, and then you start getting into the tater labeling. Where does it go from there on the actual group and kind of what you're doing? Because it was interesting to me when you were like, this isn't a business and we're not doing that. So it's kind of like, what would you consider it, like a collective or a forum or?
Just a group.
Yeah.
A group collectively with an interest,
Yeah.
Obviously this is bourbon, and we talk about bourbon. We share different views on what we like, what we don't like. And then, I think with having a bottle that's part of the group, it makes you feel more inclusive of the group.
Yeah.
With this, we pre-saled it and said, hey, we only have like 120 bottles of this, so the first 100 people or so that want this, sign up, and then you can go to Bourbon Street and get your bottle.
So that now you're kind of finding the sought after stuff or picking things that you guys like that someone would be waiting in the parking lot for, and then you tater label it, and then you essentially put it out to your group, and then everybody knows to go get this because this is kind of the sought after stuff or the stuff that you'd be looking for if you were really into bourbon and kind of into your group.
So I think, the stuff that we do, store picks and stuff like that, are good alternatives, are very good. I think, all of us have very good palates. We know we've drank a lot of bourbon. We've tasted almost everything out there. So these groups that produce these picks, you're relying on, the people that are managing it to pick something really good. And it's a lot easier to get versus, having to stand an hour and find wine and good spirits and get that.
Yeah. And from a perspective of me who's just getting into stuff and like making drinks, and a friend of mine, it's funny, the older I get, the more I'm running into my friends who just stop drinking beer and they're getting into whiskey. And I'm like, yeah, this is how that happens. So like someone like myself, where now I can almost become educated in bourbon and kind of meet up with people and talk to you guys and just kind of find out more of what would be good tastes as well.
Yeah, definitely. We do a lot of charity things as well. Every bottle that we sell, we donate $5 to animal charities. But we do a lot of giveaways and pop-ups. Laura Bly, which is a fashion designer in the Southside Arts District, has paired with us for a lot of different events, whether it's
I think I just saw that recently. You did something with her?
Yeah, we just did a dog fashion show.
Yeah.
So she has 2 fashion shows a year. The last fashion show she made the owner of Venture X, which is the venue that she chooses to have her fashion shows at, a dog coat, and it went off really, really well. I love this use of, I have extra fabric. What can I do with it rather than throwing it away?
Yeah.
So we decided we would do a whole fashion show revolving around dogs and then the dog owners, and we did have a model or 2 there as well.
Yeah.
We tasted everything that we had. It was a lot of fun. Roasted catered it. But we've done pop-ups there where, I'll bring bottles of bourbon and we'll taste it, our stuff. We've done a pop-up where, we just all brought some stuff. And, one of the things we brought was Weller Single Barrel, which is highly sought after. It's a $70 bottle that sells for $700 to $800. So with us getting lucky and getting it for retail, we don't mind opening it. And then, we basically killed the bottle, I think, that night.
I think we almost finished it.
Yeah.
So then it gives opportunity for everyone to kind of taste and enjoy and see if they like it. Like, is this worth spending
something
my
they can't
time
get.
to go out and
I like
spend
that.
$800?
Yeah, I think the important thing with bourbon, and when you really get into it, chances are you're not going to get the allocated stuff, that you're not going to be one of the, 20 guys in line because you have a real job and you can't, get out of work to tell your boss you're going to wait for a bottle of bourbon. So we definitely love the ability that we can offer some different, whiskeys and bourbons out there that the average person may not get to experience. And for myself, I have a bar that I probably have $50,000 of open rare bourbons on my shelf, and my go-to drinks are probably most bottles $50 or under.
Yeah.
It's just, some of them you taste and you're like, wow, that's so worth $500. And but most of the time it's like, wow, that $50 one tastes just the same, So we wanted to just give a bunch of alternatives, and Derek and Drew and I are all kind of this mentality that we're trying to find like the cutting edge. We want to push things, and that's where we got into a lot of the finishes with the Amburano and all of our cigar blends, which are just taking off. The cigar batch, the cigar blend theory of bourbon has really been hot right now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the newest wave. And then we just introduced a corn bourbon, corn bourbon cigar batch. I don't know of one exists.
There's not one out there
other
right
than
now.
ours and anywhere, which simply means that normally bourbons have like 51% of it is corn, and then there's other grains. Ours has 99.5% corn, and then it's 0.5% barley, and corn brings a very unique sweetness of all the grains. So, and then the Amburano wood. To me, I still drink it and I still smell it. You'll nose it before you drink it, and it reminds me of sitting next to my great grandfather when he was smoking a pipe tobacco.
Yeah.
So it brings back memories. I love the taste, the nose, as the bourbon hits your mouth, you go on this journey of all the tasting notes and the finishes and what lingers, what doesn't. So bourbon is really, that's why I think I personally love it. It's not like you drink a Coke or a beer and you have this taste in your mouth for 2 seconds, it goes away, and it tastes the same all the time. Every bottle of bourbon tastes different.
Yeah.
So the complexity of it, it's almost like a science. So
It's very similar how you're talking about it on like how I try and describe food to people, where like how the layers of it and like the tastes of it, and the more I get into this, the more, and because I have friends that are getting into it at the same time, which is fun. It's definitely not on a level like this, but I will be telling them what you guys are doing. But they'll bring stuff over and be like, well, try this, it's Japanese whiskey, or try this because it's this, and it's just really starting, like I can see myself slowly starting to be like, the more I drink it, not maturing with it, but paying attention to what's actually going on, and not just you know, making a Jack and Coke and slamming a drink and then just kind of like sipping it, and how it changes when the ice is melting or no ice at all. Or I'm so stupid. Like I went and ordered a drink and the guy's like, you want it up? And I just kept saying yes to all of his first questions. And I'm like, this is how I drink this. And then when I watched him make it, I was like Googling it and I'm like, but it's fun, like learning and getting into that. So from a perspective of you guys getting into that and being as green as I am, and then getting to a point where you fall in love with it and you're waiting to get into stores and then turning it into something where you guys are actually bringing like your hobby and your love for this and like putting your favorite whiskeys and then labeling them on shelves, and then you see it moving. I'm sure like the distributors are like, hey, this is really moving, and then you're almost bringing trends to the valley, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, it makes me feel good just looking earlier at our table. I knew we had a lot of picks that we'd come out with, but I'm like, wow, we've come a long way in you know, basically 14 months. And when we go into Bourbon Street in Phillipsburg, New Jersey, and we would essentially have a whole rack there with all of our bottles. I mean,
because anyone going into that then is already kind of like prematurely like, hey, this is stuff somebody already knows is good.
Yeah.
It's not blindly walking around and being like, oh, well, that's on the top shelf, or this is on the bottom shelf, or being talked out of something from the sales clerk.
Yeah.
I mean, we still get a ton of people just walking in, seeing these tater labels, and they're like, oh, Top Gun, that's such a great movie. I'm just going to buy this. I'm just going to buy this bottle. Or the golfing one. Like, there's people that are like, I love the golf. Like, what is this? And then they might say, what's Big Dog? And then it kind of pulls people back into that aspect. Because we do like a sign up for our bottles. But I mean, right now it's seeming like a lot of people are seeing these labels, and right now cigar batches are killing it. So they might just grab one to grab.
What's
one.
the sign up for the bottles?
So we do Derek will put together like a Google sheet, and then anybody in our group will post it, say, hey, this bottle's dropping, say Friday.
So yeah, just post it like an email out to everybody?
Yeah, so they're guaranteed to get a bottle.
And that's anybody who's in
our group.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously we put it out out because we want to promote Big Dog. So we
of
put
course.
it out there. But I mean, Derek put together like a nice rack. It has the logos. I mean, if I'm walking in there and don't know what Big Dog is, I think the logo's cool enough. I mean, I just had somebody buy a bottle because their dog was that dog and sent me pictures. I was like, wow, that's awesome. So we just posted them. So you get those people as well. They might not be bourbon people, but they're buying it for the dog, you know?
Yeah. It's not just, everybody's kind of having a different experience with it, but then it's also pulling people into what you're doing. Because even if somebody's looking at it like, hey, that's my dog, then they're like, well, what are you guys doing? And then when you explain what you're doing, it's very similar when people are like, what are you doing in that basement? And it's like, well, it's a podcast. And then not everybody sees your stuff, and everything's so oversaturated, and there's things everywhere, and there's so many options now, and the way things are, it's like, it's a cool, like, unique way to kind of get people to be completely involved in your business, whether it's accidental or they're slowly growing into wanting to know more about whiskey, or they are looking to be around people who know. Like, when I get into food, it's like, sometimes I feel stupid talking to my friends who aren't into food, and they're like, you're a food snob. And I'm like, I'm not. I'm like, I just know a lot, and I know what ingredients are in here, and you know why it's tasting that way. And then I find myself defending myself. But there's people who, when I find other foodies, I'm like, you get it. And I don't have to like apologize because I said this person's pizza sucked because it wasn't that good, where now you can have, it's a place for people to go who are maybe looking for others who are a little bit more educated in whiskey as well.
Yeah, and I think that part of our mission in this group is we want to help give our perspective to other bourbon drinkers on different types of bourbon. I mean, none of us are experts here, but I don't think there's truly a bourbon expert. You like what you like, you have your taste profiles, but we've pretty much come up with a variety of different, the wheated bourbons, the corn bourbon, the sorghum whiskeys. As well as the Starlight and a Blue Note, some of the branded whiskeys that we put our tater label on, and we'll pick particular barrels from there. But it's all about what you like, having fun. And, we went a couple minutes ago, we were talking about like what we gain out of it. We're not being millionaires from this, but I gained, two of my best friends, and I met so many other.
And bottles to drink every night.
Yeah, I love bourbon. I mean, it's when I'm done with work and my free time, one of the first things I'm, going online is bourbon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I love it. And, I'll go days and not drink bourbon, and I'll go days and drink, 5 days in a row. But, I enjoy it. I sip it. I try to see what's different, what taste develop, what I get on the nose. So I really take it serious. I'm not slamming stuff.
Yeah.
And that's not what I don't think real bourbon drinkers don't do. You want to do that? I did it when I was, 21. Just give me the cheapest
Yeah.
whiskey.
Windsor,
On
whatever
the
he
bottom
used to
shelf.
drink.
Plastic
Canadian
bottle.
whiskey was always like the
Yeah,
cheapest stuff. And I
well,
would just, yeah.
They used to call them puck houses at the club. It was whiskey and ginger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I still have Crown at home, and all that stuff's good. It just I've definitely, in my opinion, kind of elevated to the bourbon taste of different bourbons, and I love it. I love the thrill of the hunt. I love hunting for bottles. I love trying expensive stuff to compare it to a $50 bottle, or $30 bottle for that fact. And so we want to just give our opinions, whether listeners or fans want to think of it and take it for to heart and follow what we recommend. But it's all about like educating, just giving our point of view.
Yeah, I like that. It's very similar to like what I do with food and like follow people who are into food. And like I didn't know people did that with alcohol. Like I knew they did it with beer, but
Very similar.
I don't know. I never got into the IPAs or any of that stuff. And then getting into this, like this is completely perking my interest because I'm already doing it on a very, 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 very low level with just getting into it with my friends. But I enjoy it. Like my friend was like, hey, so-and-so dropped this whiskey and I ordered it online and I was one of a couple to get them. He's like, well, wait to open it. We should pick a day. So it's fun getting into that and having the connections with the whiskey and all that. When you guys go to find your bottle, what is the entire process of that? Do you go somewhere and taste it? Do you buy a bottle and then do you have to get permission to tater label it? Or how does the entire process of picking out your next bottle for your next drop go?
Well, for our private label, we go to New Jersey. Is it Fairfield, New Jersey? Is that where it is? To kind of would you say a bourbon wholesale broker? Who basically is buying barrels.
Bourbon brokers?
Yeah, I guess it would kind of be that way.
Only call it that. That's so small.
So
James Bond.
Everything that we do up until this point is single barrels. So literally, it's one barrel. We bottle it. Our yield is somewhere between 160 and 240 bottles, and that's it. Once it's done, it's done.
How do you pick the barrel?
So we'll get a lot of tasting. We'll go out down to Kentucky, or they'll send us up samples, to Bourbon Street that we'll taste, or we'll go to, distilleries or brokers, taste a bunch of barrels, and we'll say, yeah, we like this a lot.
So there's usually a product or a whiskey that you guys are interested in and like, hey, we should go check this out. And then it's kind of like, you guys go then and do tastings, and then you're like, hey, we like this one, let's get this. And then because they only make one barrel of it, and then you guys purchase the barrel, or the liquor store does, and then you label the barrel because once you purchased it, it's yours, and then that's how you're able to tater label.
Yeah,
this is a rabbit hole I can go down. This is so much fun for you guys.
In the States, there's a 3-tier system. So you have a distiller or contract distiller or source that sells to a distributor and then sells to a store. So you always have to hit those different marks. When you go through the labeling process, it goes through TTB, or like if it's something in Pennsylvania, LCB as well, that regulate it, make sure that certain general warning is on it, make sure ABV and percent alcohol and the volume of alcohol is on it. So those tend to be very stringent processes to come out with a final product.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So then when you guys, obviously you pick out what you want to do, and then where are you traveling to mostly to do it? What's the furthest you travel?
I go to Kentucky personally. I go probably five times a year.
And you're going to just distilleries in general? That's what you do out there?
Taste, yeah. You do some tasting. You do some, bourbon hunting.
You spend a weekend doing that, or?
4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Try to wrap it around the weekend. But there's a big misconception that because 95% of the world's bourbon is made in the state of Kentucky, that people think you drive to Kentucky, go to Kentucky on vacation, that you're just going to come back with all these rare, hard-to-find bottles. It's just as difficult to find them in Kentucky. And if you do find them in Kentucky, you better be ready to max out your credit card, because it's a non-controlled state, so each individual liquor store owner can charge whatever they want for the bottle. And so that's, one of the disadvantages to a non-controlled state. But we do a lot in New Jersey, and we basically, when we say we're tasting out of the barrel, they're literally thieving it right out of the barrel into our glass, and that's how you get the true taste of it. So that's probably the most fun part
that's the
for
best
me
part.
is because you'd be surprised. It can be a same kind of mash bill or recipe, and it could sit in 3 different barrels, and depending on where the barrel's stored, if it's high, low, the temperature change, all these things affect what the aging of the bourbon, which then results in a different taste. I'm still flabbergasted on how much the things change.
Yeah,
It's the same stuff, and it was sitting right next to another barrel, but that got 5 degrees hotter in the summer, 3 degrees colder in the winter, and it just changes the flavor.
Super interesting. Do you guys do those trips together then as well, or do you is it hard to get everybody to go out and go, or is that easier to get stuff sent to you so you can taste it and then purchase the barrel? What's kind of the easiest process for you guys to tackle it? Because it's not your full-time gig, correct, for any of you?
No, we that's probably the biggest challenge to this group is getting everyone's, because this, again, we don't make any
there's no
monetary gain in this. So we all have full-time jobs, kids, coaching sports, and that type of thing. So that's probably the most difficult. Derek and I had gone to Kentucky last year together, and we probably should avoid that in the future because it gets very expensive.
Yeah.
I think, how many bottles did we bring back?
Probably like 180,
Yeah,
200.
literally.
Oh my God.
So, and
I'm glad I wasn't there.
Yeah, it would have been 400.
But I think we have some things lined up that we are going to have to sit down and, map out a schedule, because some of the elevated tastings that you do at distilleries, you have to kind of go there to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Maker's Mark, for one, is one that, a lot of times I'll send samples, but Maker's Mark wants you to do the experience and pull right from the barrel there, and that's an awesome part of it.
Is that like an all-day I saw a friend of mine, or he posted he's a big whiskey guy, and he was kind of the first person. He's constantly showcasing his social media. It's Reload Rub for barbecue and stuff. But he's super into whiskey, and he went to his first distillery tour and all that. That looks like a blast to go out and do that. Is that like a full day, or is it a weekend thing, or are you going to multiple distilleries when you go down south?
Yeah, usually depending on the distillery, the tours, depending on what level of tour. Nowadays, it's such a big industry that they have a basic tour, then which is hard to get in. Yeah, so but they're anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah,
and some of the tours involve tasting, some of them don't. Just like, hey, this is our rick house, this is all our barrels, this, a lot of it's history of whatever distillery you're going to.
Yeah.
So it for anyone that hasn't done it, I certainly recommend it. But once you do a few of them, they kind of all trend to become the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, this is a different looking building, but it's still ultimately the same. But I can't say that I haven't learned something on almost every one that I've taken. I just did an Old Forester one when I was out there in December. I was out there last, and that was a lot on the history, and they had a fire in the one the one distillery, so they kind of changed them. So I learned a lot there, but I recommend take as many as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the closest to us? Is there anything close to us that's doing anything?
I mean, there's distilleries all
local-
over.
local
I mean, you
ones.
look
Yeah.
at Social Still.
Yeah.
That's right in Southside Bethlehem. There's probably at least a dozen, if not 2 dozen
The
distilleries
Sasquatch.
around here. And they're smaller scale, so it's a lot quicker. But most are very open to tours. I know Social Still does tours. You can schedule it. With COVID, it's a little bit different. They used to have every Saturday they would go at 2 different times, and you could tour the building, see the stills, learn about everything. Just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's not far away.
No. There's a lot of things going on in the valley. I mean, it's small scale, but it's cool to see, people like yourselves doing this. It's very similar to how people start anything, is where they're intrigued on it and then pushing it and then turning it into something. And then it's, one more thing in the valley that we have something to do.
Sure. And bourbon is very versatile. We cook with it. At the dog show, we did caramelized onions with one of our bourbons. and put them in a quiche. I've made barbecue sauce. We do dry rub, barbecue rubs. We have a lot of collaborations too. Five Maidens, which is a cidery, we gave them a barrel. They aged cider in it, and now that cider gets characteristics of that barrel and then changes it so much. And it's great to do things with local breweries, distilleries.
So then do you turn that into like a Big Dog cider then when you do that collab?
Yeah. So that's not quite out yet. But we have 750 milliliter bottles that it's been bottled in, capped, and then we'll do like a launch party with that.
That's so cool to do all this. I get the whole everything I do that's monetized off of this keeps this running, and that's all I've ever done. And I'll get into projects now to make money because I learned business, but I totally get like just keeping something going and taking everything and dumping it back into it and making it better so like you guys can have a better experience in what you're doing. Then you offer it to other people. It's really cool to and I think those are the best projects when you don't try and actually make money off of it and you just kind of keep it. All right, hey, well, let's do this and let's collab with this, and it's way easier to work. And I love what you guys are doing with this. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, we love trying to find different ways to reuse the barrels, right? So
yeah, well, I was going to follow up with that. Is how many goddamn barrels do you guys have?
We have
apparently
a lot.
you guys aren't throwing anything out.
Luckily, I have a property in Southside that we can store a lot of this stuff. I have a local maple syrup guy that, he processes everything in Pennsylvania. We sell it at roasted. We're going to do a project where we're going to age maple syrup in a barrel.
Yeah.
We have talks about
so much fun networking.
A local honey person, aging in a barrel with that. And, at least once or twice a month, I go to a local cigar shop in Bethlehem, and we're going to do a project where we're going to do another cigar batch because he loves it so much. And we're going to take his tobacco, because he hand rolls tobacco, age it in a barrel, and then for that event, he's going to roll cigars out of that tobacco that's been aged in our barrel.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of really cool, unique things that...
I love that you guys pushed that rabbit hole and like, where can it go now? Where can it go now? Where can it go now? And then that way, like anytime any type of a hiccup or anything comes up, or you don't keep doing the same shit over and over and over. Like you just named like 5 different things that you could either sell as like Big Dog honey, but then you're collaborating with people, so you're helping a smaller business or a business in general, and then you can just keep constantly turning it. I can relate to that a lot because it's a lot of what I do, and I like working that way, and I like constantly moving and constantly changing up the idea, and it doesn't make anything stale. And and then when you involve people in it, it's a great way to just really show someone like a kaleidoscope of everything you're trying to do. How does someone sign up or join what you're doing?
So we're available on pretty much every social media platform. We just joined TikTok for the first time. I don't know who's doing that. It's me.
Yeah. No, Jason said he did that. Yeah.
I try. I download that app every time, and I'm like...
I'm not a big TikTok guy.
Not at all.
Every time I do it, it's even just... Because like I'll cut a reel, and I can use that reel for a YouTube short, and then I can still dump it on TikTok. And every time I just get to open TikTok, and I'm like, I don't want to do it.
We're also on Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a website yet.
Well, the QR code's pretty sweet that you put together.
Yeah, we have a QR code that kind of goes to all of our social media and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The website's coming where you want to get into like consulting. Like if I want to get my husband something, I know he likes bourbon, and I don't know what to get him. Well, have us come out. We'll do a tasting. We'll do some, educating. Tell him to bring his bourbon buddies over, and you're gonna look like the king of your neighborhood. So yeah, that's on the horizon. But I think why our personalities blend so well is we're always like pushing a needle. What's the next thing we can do? Like this cigar thing. I mean, that's other than Starlight and Joseph. I guess we kind of brought the whole cigar blend locally, and we got a lot of Lehigh Valley.
Where did you even hear about cigar blends?
Starlight, probably were our first pick that we did. So
it was just something you were interested in tasting because you knew about it through the ether of whiskey?
Yeah.
It's so unique. You find something, again, this goes along with the tasting. You find something and you're like, wow, this is different. This is unique. Like, every barrel is a little bit different. Every brand is a little bit different, but this is different. This has a different nose. This has a different taste, a different finish. you know, and one day I'm like to Patrick, I'm like, we could do this. Like,
Yeah.
let's try it. You know, and after 6 months of, you know, testing on scientifically or unscientifically.
Yeah, Derek and I have a little different. I kind of eyeball test. Yeah, that's close. He measures everything like a digital scale. And,
How much did you put in that, Pat? And he's like, I don't know. Like,
well, I
this
drew
much.
a black Sharpie. I took a line in a shot glass, and that's how many chips I dumped in.
Yeah.
I mean, the big thing for me, the first time I ever drank bourbon was because all my cigar buddies were like drinking bourbon, and I'm over there drinking, you know, Miller Lite, and they're like,
Yeah.
dude, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know, this is good. Like this, and they're like, you got to try this. I'm like, nah, I don't want it. And then I finally tried it, and I'm like, this is pretty, you know, with a cigar, this is awesome. So it kind of put me into the collecting aspect, which again, it goes back to me and Pat meeting, and you know, I was hunting Blanton's for the first time ever, but it just happened. This cigar batch for me is a lot of my buddy. For us is that pairs really well with the cigar. It helps with that strong, you know, tobacco flavor. So for me, that's where this is like kind of like a full circle for me. Is I've been in cigar game for, you know, six years now. I only got in a couple years ago, but now it's probably lean more toward the bourbon. But I like the whole pairing aspect, and that's what kind of brought us all back to this.
It's kind of similar. Where a friend of mine, he travels a lot. So it's like my buddy who got into the Manhattans, like, so we watch the fights every Saturday down here, and it's usually four or five of us, but we're always just usually down here watching the fights, and we have food and drinks and stuff. And then it was during the summer, a buddy of mine was like, hey, I brought cigars for everyone, and we're going to go outside and we're going to smoke cigars, and if you don't like them, don't inhale them, or just smoke the cigar. And we went out there, and everybody started having small pockets of conversation because you had to be outside for the length of the cigar. And then I was like, this is really cool because it's not so much for me about the cigar, but it is about everybody's interacting differently. And then we were like, we should go on like guys trips, and why don't we go shoot clays? And then then, you know, I'm seeing the same thing now slowly happen with the whiskey, where one guy was kind of heavy on it. Then somebody now brings a bottle of whiskey, and then everybody's kind of just now having cigars and whiskey, and it's a much different hang than trying to finish a 30-pack.
I'd say the best thing, I mean, that's probably one of the best things about it is, I mean, I could sit here and tell you, drink this and flavor it. He might have a different palate. He might have a different palate. But what brings it all together is like what we agree on with every one of these bottles. I mean, and it's the same with the cigar. I could sit here and tell you, I taste, you know, leather. Guy next to me might be like, I don't taste that at all, but this is awesome. We're having a conversation.
Yeah.
We're enjoying tasting this. We're not sitting here pounding shots down, or like you said, finishing a 30-pack was pretty common.
Yeah, so, it's just, and I don't know if it's the older I'm getting or just a different style of drinking. I'm just starting to have it because I've always liked volume. So like hard liquor never works with volume. And then like the older I'm getting, your hangovers are terrible to deal with. And drinking 30 beers on a weekend isn't something that is, I don't have the time anymore. So like, I'm like, now it's turning into just kind of enjoying and sipping and then like learning and the ice and how much goes in. But now that like I've been having it without ice, I'm like, I'm starting to prefer it without any ice in it at all. And then I don't know, I just, it's cool hearing how you guys turn this into this, because it's a lot of what I relate to going on with my friends, where like people are then trying to introduce scotch. I can't do that at all.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah. Derek over here, he's the Scotch man.
I came from Scotch. I mean, my family always drank bourbon, but I never really collected bourbon. You know, we would have beer shares every week.
Yeah.
And then pandemic happened, and I had 5 refrigerators of beer, and I'm like, I need to collect something else.
Yep.
You know, so I kind of got more into collecting bourbon, met him, which exacerbated the whole hobby or addiction or whatever we want to call it. And yeah, you know, it evolved into this, which is really awesome, you know, bringing people together and socialization.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it's about.
I think it's really cool what you're doing. Before we get into the whiskey and like kind of what you guys brought here, because it was so goddamn much. I have it behind you. It's on the floor. Because I was like, I didn't understand kind of what the whole project was. I did, but I didn't. And then when you brought everything and then doing this interview, I'm really excited to, one, tell my friends about it, and two, really start diving into it. What do you guys have planned as far as growing this and like things that you're going to be doing with it this year?
like I said, like our continued projects of networking and evolving to different things. Maple syrup season, I think, ends like April-ish, so that's when we'll probably fill a barrel for that. April 29th, we have the cigar rolling, and that's going to be really fun. And we have a bunch of releases in the pipeline, but it is tough with time. I have a lot going on.
Yeah.
They have a lot going on as well. This just became a group that we started hanging out a lot more. Golfing, we were like, oh, we're all golfers. Let's go golfing weekly.
Do you plan on doing anything at like a golf course and putting like a golf day on?
Yeah, so we have Victory House, which I support a lot. They're in Southside, homeless shelter. They do an annual golf outing every year, and we'll have some barrels there with samples of everything, on the 17th hole, which is a hole in one. I forget what the prize is, something big. And we definitely want to put together a golf tournament very soon this year.
Charity benefits type of charity. Yeah.
Those are always fun to go to, and it's a great way to raise money all at once in one day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a big undertaking, but that's something that we talked about.
Yeah, that's massive planning.
Maybe a fall, to get together as sponsors, but between Derek's network and Drew and myself, all with our our normal jobs, have a lot of contacts. So I think we could drum up a lot of sponsorships and give a lot of dollars to a worthy cause.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
It's nice that all the networks that we have behind the scenes, right? I'm on golf committees and plan golf. I have basically a marketing company that it's very easy for us to make swag, hats, apparel. Patrick has a lot of higher end clients, that are interested in the same things, and Drew as well. So it's very easy to kind of grow organically rather than just saying, hey, we have this class and, this group, and just kind of shove it down everyone's throat to get people to sign up. Yeah,
I like that. It's seeing where all the networking and everything comes from each one of your backgrounds. It's really cool to see three people collectively take an idea and then just kind of take sources from what they're good at and then dump it into a hobby that the three of you are very passionate about, and then it naturally is just turning into something and making it fun, whether it's just something for you guys to do or whether you have people coming in that want to do more of what you guys are doing, or you're raising money, and it's just like a very selfless thing that you guys are doing that just seems to be growing and happening naturally because the three of you love it.
Yeah. I mean,
it's hard to find.
Been two of my best friends, and
it's hard to do. It's hard to find. A lot of people are focused on money. A lot of people are focused on what do they get out of it, and it just seems like there's three people who love a passion for the project, and it's just. I'm extremely interested in it just from the aspect of you're not selling it. You're like, this is what we're doing and this is what we do. And we're going to do this, whether it's on here or not. So we might as well turn it into something where we can do positive things with it or turn it into something way bigger down the road.
Yeah.
I think long term you would see, it could be bigger, but I mean, the funny thing when you look back on it, it was the Big Dog, is we all have some sort of tight connection to the dogs with Pat's mom doing the vet. Yeah, my mom breeds dogs, and then Derek's love for all the dogs. So I mean, it is funny that, Big Dog started as a term of, wow, that bottle, you look at Pat over here getting a Big Dog bottle.
That's fun.
And now we're all sitting here like, wow, there's a really weird connection in that regard. So, and
now that I tasted some of the the $50 whiskeys, I'm like, wow, you got up at the crack of dawn, drove to freaking Newark, New Jersey to sit in because you made a relationship with a store owner and they said they were going to hold a bottle for you. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of miles I put on between driving to Ohio, Kentucky, New Jersey just for bourbon when I was so naive. And I'm like, we got a lot of good stuff, or let's make our own, or let's pick our own barrels, man.
Yeah.
I'm tired of chasing it. Chase us. I'm tired of chasing it.
Exactly. Well, that was my follow-up then is like you guys get all this knowledge and you're finding out that you don't have to chase that dragon. So, like, does it deter you from doing the original hobby of hunting the bottles?
Oh, yeah.
Because you know that you're like, well, I could get up and max my credit card out, but we have this other barrel that we can buy, and it's just as good, and then we can push that to other people to give them knowledge. Like, how has all of this changed the original hunt?
Speaking for myself,
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I've definitely curbed on my enthusiasm to drive all over the place, but the hunt is still very
because
deep
the hunt's
inside
just
of me.
a different.
Like when I go to Kentucky,
animal.
I
Yeah.
am going to still stop at some, honey hole stores and revisit some store owners and, refresh their relationship. Because if you were a bourbon hunter, the thing that I could really give you as a piece of advice is to make a relationship with the owner. Don't just go there, hey, do you have any Pappy Van Winkle, when 50 other guys do it. You can ask that
Every
question,
day.
but show up, buy a pack of Miller Lite, buy a bottle of Grey Goose, buy something else so that they don't feel like you're just there to use them for a bottle of whiskey. And
That's got to be
and
weird
leave.
as like a long-term alcohol salesman or like somebody who's just kind of in that game for life, where they just see hunters coming in and then being like, fuck that guy. He's just in here.
Oh,
blow smoke up
they're
my
like,
ass.
they could have 10 bottles of something that you asked for and they
Yeah.
won't give it to you. And I think that's when my industry, being in kind of the sales world, I'm good at relationship building. That's what I think I bring best to this group and just things. And it's an organic, like genuine relationship. I
Yeah.
like to pick owners of liquor store owners' brains, like what's selling, what do you like, what are you tasting, what are people asking for. But so I put a lot of effort still into hunting, but not as much as I did. And I think I can probably speak for both these guys. They're probably the same way. Now that we've done
Yeah,
our own
I mean,
things. And,
Well, you're taking the energy of it and putting it into self projects and or
Yes.
a different way of finding it.
I mean, what people probably that don't realize is, like, when you talk about hype with shoes and stuff, that's the same with bourbon. Like, it wasn't like this. You could walk in and get all this stuff on the shelf a couple years ago. It's the fact that Buffalo Trace, like, their marketing's unbelievable. So people think they need to have this bottle that's so prestigious, and it's really not that good. I mean, any of these bottles on the table here, people are waiting in line for Blanton's, but it's the hype around it. You can't get it. Like, majority of the people you talk to, like, oh, Blanton's, and we're like over here thinking, oh, this is the first bottle we ever hunted.
Yeah.
They've never been able to get it. So their mindset, like, it's the hype around these items, and that's what kind of pushed us over to here.
Yeah,
that's what pushed us over here, is the fact that anything on this table I would put up against most of this, most of the bourbon we hunt. So it did kind of fall away a little bit, because
That's fun, though.
I don't need to I could drive down there and get this right now, and I think it's better than most of the stuff we're buying at the liquor store, honestly. I mean,
and then it just all comes
and then
down
it comes
to like
to- yeah.
marketing and sales, and a lot of people not making a lot of things, or certain places not carrying it and then trying to buy it online or drive somewhere. And I like that that's where your hunting and everything has gone, because I feel like you went past the hobby and now you're kind of in your own lane of doing this style stuff. And with the labeling and whatnot, I feel like you're kind of doing a service for people who want to be into stuff where, you're obviously going to have your people like myself who their knowledge is the proper 12, and I know everybody who knows whiskey says it sucks. So, but like, that's as far as I came. So instead of me hunting down more commercial stuff that's only being sold by hype, like, I know Dr. Disrespect dropped the whiskey and Brendan Schaub, and so, like, I follow YouTube stuff, and those guys jump in that whiskey game, and then it's like, I don't like a lot of that stuff, but they're selling tons of it because everybody wants to buy it. So be able to go somewhere or sign up for something like you guys have, it'd be nice for me to kind of polish my not knowing anything and stop chasing after things that are going to spend a lot of time and money, when I could have something either locally or something that you guys already put the work into, and start enjoying actual whiskey instead of chasing hype.
Yeah, well, save you an hour standing in line.
Yeah.
This will help you refine your palate right here. I mean,
That was the fundamental thought behind creating this group, and we're gonna really put a lot of our efforts. We grew so fast that we got a lot into these barrel picks, but fundamentally it was about no one hunted as hard as us.
Yeah.
Trust me. So we went through a lot to get the bottles, and we've been just deflated sometimes. Like, wow, I spend $30 in tolls, $60 in gas, $200 for the bottle. I get home and I'm like, this tastes like
underwhelmed.
Food's the same way.
Yeah.
Food's,
Yeah.
I mean, we go into the city a lot. I'll try and go once a month with my one buddy. We've been doing it since we were 16, and he'll just take me to cheesesteak spots in different places. And then with the way Instagram is, you have people that hype stuff up. And, I've already gone into the city and, went and tried stuff that somebody is like really taking an awesome picture of and like has sold the multiple, like, go get this. And then I go down there and I'm like texting my friend and I'm like, well, this sucks. And I came all the way down here and drove all day, lost the day of work, and like I know the feeling of what it is where you're kind of disappointed by something massively being overhyped. You guys have probably ran into that way more than anyone else.
Yeah, I probably really ran into it. Yes, I did.
You're like, I went to Kentucky for Christ's sakes.
Yeah. So and then, but I've been pleasantly surprised in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Like, I went into a grocery, a Wegmans, or not a Wegmans, a Kroger's out there, and bought one of their picks or something. I brought it home like, holy shit, this is delicious.
Yeah.
I wish I'd bought 5 bottles.
It's always a seesaw with that stuff. But I think you learn a lot that way, where it's like you start learning, where you get something overhyped and then you're kind of like, I don't know if I want to go after that again. But then you also learn a lot when you get something where it's half the price and it's, somebody's pushing a new product and you're like, man, that's really good. That's fantastic. And it's half the price of that. And I don't got to, like what you said, wait in line for 3 hours in a parking lot and try and figure stuff out. Sometimes you can just find a hidden gem.
And that's what we're trying to dial in, the hidden gem.
What did you guys bring? Because we have 60 bottles here, so I kind of wanted to get into what's on the table. Is this the stuff I was drinking?
That's what you're drinking.
All right, I'll pour more of it. I don't know if it's bad to mix things without washing it. I don't know proper whiskey etiquette with you guys.
So here.
I don't want to get yelled at.
But then you have the water left in it, which dilutes the taste. So
So this was our last pick. That is a company in Tennessee called Blue Note. Actually, Patrick, one time he was down in Kentucky and came back up and, was at Bourbon Street and is like, Chris, you have to get this. Like, these are really,
now I can
really
pour
great.
this in here. Doesn't
Right
matter.
Yeah,
It's good.
You might get a little nose of the other one, but
You may think we're
taste-wise-
whiskey snobs, but you can do anything you
you
want.
pour it
Throw
how you
some
want.
ice.
We
throw
drink
some
out of
Coke.
plastic shot glasses on the golf course.
What are you doing?
No, it's fine. It's 119 proof, so it'll kill everything on it.
Here.
But yeah,
Now,
that's
where was this from?
This is from Tennessee.
Tennessee.
It's crazy. That smells totally different than the last one.
Right?
The taste is totally different.
Yeah.
Now I know why you guys do this.
Yeah. Well, that one wasn't finished in that Amberana wood like the one you had before, which really, the bourbon's ready to go, and then we'll give it another level and we'll refinish it in that wood, and it brings out a whole new nose on it, a whole new taste, which I'm definitely can say I've kind of fallen for the cigar stuff myself. Just
Which was the first one we had?
That's the first one.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Blue Note for the price point, it's like a $60 bottle, and it's phenomenal. And that's we golf a lot together. Every time you make a birdie, we call it birdie juice. You got to take a shot. So, we thought this would be there's a lot of golfers out there in the valley that are fans of ours. So, this I hope to be on a lot of golf courses this summer. When they make birdies and they're cheering to the Big Dog birdie juice.
Yeah. What else you guys got?
This orange one was our first weeder.
What does that
When
mean?
I say weeder, it just means it has next to corn, the next highest ingredient percentage is wheat. There's a couple real famous weeders out there, like Weller is like the world famous bourbon for wheat, really sought after.
Yeah, the original.
So the wheat brings a little bit sweeter than, like, say, a rye, for example. A rye is more like the finish is typically more like a peppery, baking spice note. This is a little bit more mellow with a little sweetness to it. So we have that. We have a sorghum whiskey. So again, we try to do some things different. We have the Starlight. We have the Blue Note, which are traditional bourbons, and the Stellum, all great. We tend to go a little bit higher proof too.
Yeah.
I'm finding, and that's not proof. Your choice of proof and taste is probably the biggest thing for a bourbon drinker. Like when I first started, I didn't like high proof. I was drinking Basil Hayden's, which is 80 proof, or 86 proof. Some of them are really low. But as you drink more, I think your tendency goes to, that you want that little call it like a burn. They call it a Kentucky hug. You want that because it's typically a burn, and then there's different flavors that normally follow after that. So
the higher alcohol is going to change the taste as well.
Correct. And I personally drink all my stuff without drops of water or ice or anything. I did a lot of ice in the beginning, but my palate has really changed personally. So we try to keep all of our proofs somewhere in like the 109 to 120 range.
Yeah.
Because, and we get feedback from a lot of our members, I like this. And it seems to be that's kind of a sweet spot for a lot of them. So we have a sorghum whiskey. We have the wheater. Sorghum isn't super popular. It's kind of really, sorghum's grown down south. It's kind of got a sugar caney type of feel, so it brings a different sweetness into the whiskey as well. And then we have some cigar batches, another sorghum pick that we had done, and the corn bourbon. Yes, that was the most recent one, which there's corn whiskey, but there's not a lot of corn bourbon, meaning the barrel that it goes in has to be a brand new barrel to be considered a bourbon. So, and then to have the recipe, the mash bill, have 99.5% of it is corn. It's pretty much a drinking corn. That I've really liked because I love the sweetness. I love the nose on it. So that's pretty different. But again, we're trying to offer people affordable bottles that we love and are different.
What was the first one you guys did?
No, Starlight was the first one.
Yeah.
With the dog just playing poker.
Oh yeah. And then what's the one with the dog? Because I see some of them you do the wax on the top.
So that's Derek.
That's Derek's idea.
They love when I'm like, let's wax this.
Let's wax.
It's a lot of work.
Bottles.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It does bring a visual, asset to the bottle. Like it's cool. I think it's a pain in the ass to cut the wax off.
But I see it. He's the other one.
Just don't cut your finger off.
And the branding behind it.
And honestly,
Packaging.
Especially with beer, if you wax dip it, its longevity is a lot longer. If extreme heat, you leave it in your car, the cork might pop. When you wax dip it, that's not going to happen.
Do you have to tell them that every time, or they're like, "Nah, dude, we don't want to do this"?
No, they're over it.
I'm busy. I got appointments.
It's fun bonding time. We get to hang out for 2 hours.
No, I get it. When I was just doing T-shirts, it was mostly with girlfriends, but then other people, I'd be like, "Hey, will you?" Because in the beginning, I was just buying. I didn't know what I was doing, so I was like, "Yeah, I'll just order 300 of those T-shirts, and I'll be able to sell them all." So I'd have 300 T-shirts, and then slowly, someone would be like, "Yeah, I'll help you fold those. Like, it's so cool you're running this business." And then after an hour, they'd be like, "Yeah, I gotta go." And then like girlfriends would be like, "Yeah, I'll help you out with this." And then the second batch, they'd be like, "I got stuff to do. I'm gonna go home." And then I even remember my mom stopped helping me, and then I just don't ask anyone to fold T-shirts anymore. I just do it myself. I'll put on a movie. Very similar to food prep, but that's funny. That I brought that up, and you guys are like, "Yeah, no, let's not do that." So how many do you have total that you guys have done? Because you said, what's 14 months? Because this is still a brand new thing you guys are doing.
7?
Yeah, I think 8.
7 or 8? Yeah.
8.
And we have one we're really excited about. That's I can start to tell people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a rye whiskey. So, I mean, it has a high rye content. So they consider it like a rye, which again is more of like a peppery, baking spice type of finish. And we had that aged in some special wood that's kind of a rye blend of a cigar batch.
Yeah.
So, because of all we do countless tasting. I mean, at my bar at home, I have probably 7 or 8 different things experimenting at one time. And I know Derek does too. And, Drew, probably not at the level that we are.
I had to take a break. He lets
us do the work and then he tastes it.
I had to take a break.
I mean, it's hard work.
Yeah. I mean, and Derek is very scientific. Like he'll to the gram, and I'm more one. It goes up to back here, and I'll do the taste. It needs more, it needs less, but I'll tell you, this is tasting better, and I'm like trying to think why it tastes so good, but I've never drank out of a 24 karat gold plated glass. So
that's definitely
Mike's
real
hooking up
gold.
big
That's
time.
real gold.
I think that's it.
So, but yeah. So we have. I think we'll have probably by the end of this year, probably maybe 14.
It's up to 15.
Yeah.
If it was up to Derek, we'd have like 20.
Yeah, Derek's definitely doesn't say no to any barrel.
That's not true.
Barrel pick, and
So are people at this point contacting you guys to try stuff because they want you to label it and put it in their stores, or is it just kind of the groups like, hey, we should try this? Okay.
I would say a lot of our local members go down to Bourbon Street in Phillipsburg, and most of the time you can just taste it there before you buy it.
Yeah.
But the feedback is once they taste it, they're hooked.
And how do you guys pick your next barrel or what you're going to do? Just samples?
Samples, and then with the allotted whiskeys like the Elijah Craig's, the Starlights, the Buffalo Trace. I mean, those aren't just available all the time. You have to network or be connected with a liquor store that doesn't have volume to warrant those distilleries actually saying, okay, you can have a private barrel. And then you have to have a relationship with a store owner that says, okay, I'll give it to Big Dog or any of the other barrel groups out there. So that's kind of how we go about that.
Cool. I'm going to get you guys out of here. I want to kind of go over what you guys are planning on doing next, and like where anybody could kind of go to the next event or what you have going on or how they can get onto the social media and all that. I knew I always lead these podcasts into a little bit of I have to figure it out as I go. And I was intrigued with the project, but I didn't really know what it all entailed, and I like keeping it that way. But then finding out like what you guys are actually doing, and then being someone who's just getting into whiskey, like I didn't know like it was all right to not put ice in it, and then like I kind of preferred it that way, but then everyone was like, I get a big block of ice, and then now after doing this, I'm like, no, I don't need ice in it at all, and I'm actually drinking it slower, and like it's fun to learn in it, and then to do this while I'm learning into that, I can't wait to tell my friends about it, but I actually can't wait to start participating in the things that you guys are doing. I think it's awesome that you found a collective like this where the three of you can kind of take all the different things you know and then dump it into this business, and then you're doing all these different things, and it's all networking, and it's just completely fueled out of passion, which I relate to on a huge level. I love everything that you guys are doing. I want to give you guys a chance to plug your social media, how anybody can start finding it, and I also want to know, for own personal stuff, is who has the Tater labels and what liquor stores carry it. Is it only that one in Jersey? But just kind of let everyone know where they can start being a part of your group and being able to taste the whiskeys that you guys are pushing, because these are a little bit more than labels of stuff that I only know about it because it was on Bar Rescue or TV commercials, and I was like, man, I would pay $10 more because this blows that out of the water. So, but then I don't have to also buy a 200 bottle of whiskey thinking I'm doing what you guys are already doing. So I kind of want you guys to package all that information up.
Well, I'll take over where to buy the bottles, and I'll leave some the other stuff to these guys.
Okay.
Right now, retail-wise, it's available at the Bourbon Street Wine and Spirits, which they have several locations in New Jersey. A couple of them, the bigger stores, are in Phillipsburg. So you can literally walk in there pretty much almost...
And that's close to here, correct?
Yeah, just right over the bridge.
There's
you can pretty much go
way.
in there and taste any of our picks and walk out with a bottle. I mean, we're not in Pennsylvania at all. But I would say anyone that might be listening that's interested to try anything that's out of state... Bourbon Street has a website that you can go on, and they can ship bottles to pretty much every state except about 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Message us on Facebook, Big Dog Bourbon Facebook group, and just message one of us, and we'll try to help in any way. If there's an issue with you getting a bottle and really want one. And as far as the social media aspect of it, we're kind of rounding in shape with that. So we have the Facebook group. My girlfriend has been doing Instagram. We're gonna upgrade our presence on there because we're pretty much taking off faster than I think any of us thought. But Derek has put the QR code on a lot of our stuff, and he can elaborate on the other stuff as well.
Sure. Cool. Yeah. Specifically, Bourbon Street by Home Depot is the majority of our stuff, but we have started to get into the other stores, especially with the more recent cigar blends. pretty much all of our labels moving forward will have a QR code that you can go at Big Dog Bourbon for Facebook, at Big Dog Bourbon
a great
for
idea.
Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, which we'll figure out probably by the time this airs. So pretty much every social media aspect. We have 2 different Facebook groups. One is like a Facebook blog. One is like an actual group. So the blog, we kind of push out like new releases, events. The group is more like interactive. If you want to talk about bourbon, if you've seen something on a shelf that you're like, oh, hey, like Blanton's is on the shelf right now. That never happens. Like it's at the store, kind of help out the community and other people. But yeah, as we evolve with more social media, we'll do more things with it. Our events we'll post on all of our social media, as well as like events and Facebook and stuff like that.
Or check your golf courses in ponds, ditches, woods. If you find any Big Dog golf balls out there, just scan our logo, because sometimes we'll actually hit an errant tee shot and it might go in the woods, and look for our golf balls.
That's
the
fun.
best form of advertising. So
Yeah, we've seen our golf ball. What,
Yeah,
like New York?
our golf balls been all, how the heck did
I love that you guys take everything that you love and your hobbies and you're passionate about, and you roll it back into the business. And it seems like everybody kind of has their own role in what they do. And I've been able to watch where everybody's kind of come in, but like, then to just see you guys all laugh, but like that's a great idea. It's just with the golf balls, because if you're into the things that you guys are in, which means that there's other golfers that are into doing your stuff, and you're just kind of cutting out your own little niche of people that like what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, we all have like marketing, sales backgrounds, so I think this comes very
shows.
easy to us.
Yeah.
But if we're out and we're a threesome, there's a 4th open. So we meet people a lot that way. We were on a course one time, and I'm like, oh, hey, do you like bourbon? He's like, yeah, I love bourbon. I'm like, oh,
would you like to get drunk with us
I
today?
have this mini bottle of Blanton's. He's like, oh, whoa, Blanton's, like, that's crazy. So we have a lot of unique privileges and things with our stuff. So, it's always great. It's always great networking to have bourbon and like-minded people.
Yeah. I had a blast. I'm glad we didn't get drunk.
Next time.
We
Next
easily
time.
could have. Well, no, that's what I was going to say is if you guys ever want to come on to promote something, or you guys ever want to do like whiskey podcasting or something like that, the door's open, and we can definitely figure something out, or get into more of this, because you could easily just open a bottle and start a conversation, and 2 hours can go by. If you're a first-time listener, first-time watcher, it's neveragainstudio.com. That's the website. It has everything on there. Instagram's the thing where I post everything. I don't really post on Facebook. It goes back over. So if you have any questions or comments, or you want to get a hold of me, Instagram's the way to go. There's a link in the Instagram that'll take you to the apparel that we do. It's drop ship, so if you order it, it'll get to you in a couple of days. Subscribe to the YouTube. Subscribe to everything. Follow what these guys are doing. I'm going to eventually get drunk with you guys, so I'm excited for that in the future. Thank you for coming back on again. You've had a plethora of really cool things that are going on in your life. But we did an hour and 16, and I got you out of here before 12.
Yeah, thanks,
Awesome.
Mike. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, thank you.
Never Again Radio. Get into it, brother.